Mike Huckabee compared anti-gay bigot Kim Davis to Abraham Lincoln. Wonderful.
But there are some dissenting voices in the conservative movement. I want you to respond to something from Rod Dreher in the American Conservative. He says if the Supreme Court makes a ruling we don't like, we are obliged to obey the law or be willing to suffer the consequences of disobedience. What we cannot do and what the government cannot permit is open defiance of settled law. He believes this is going to backfire on the religious liberty movement. What's your response?
Well, he would have hated Abraham Lincoln because Lincoln ignored the 1857 Dred Scott decision that said black people weren't fully human. It was a wrong decision. And to say that we have to surrender to judicial supremacy is to do what Jefferson warned against, which is, in essence, surrender to judicial tyranny. And we had so many different presidents, including Jefferson, Jackson, Lincoln. There were other founders like Hamilton, Adams, who made it very clear that the courts can't make a law. The Constitution is expressly clear that that's a power reserved to Congress. When the courts have a ruling, then it is incumbent upon Congress to codify that into law and specifically delineate what that means. That hasn't happened, George.
But, sir, how is this different then from Loving versus Virginia back in 1967? Of course, that was the Supreme Court ruling that struck down bans on interracial marriage. If a clerk at that time had said, listen, my religious beliefs forbid me from issuing this license, would you support that?
Well, it's an incredibly different situation because what the Supreme Court did in Loving, no, it's not the same, George, not even close. Because in Loving, you still had a marriage which was a man and a woman, and it was equal protection, but it didn't redefine marriage.
Oh, yes, it did. On state law books at the time, they had a ban on interracial marriage, and it was based on the Bible. So they did redefine marriage when they said, we are now going to allow black people and white people to intermarry. Of course they redefined it. That's what the whole thing was about. And the court decided, well, wait, it makes sense to throw out the Bible and religious reasoning and say, because of equal protection under the law, you can't discriminate against interracial couples. They have a right to get married. That's the exact same reasoning going on today when it comes to the LGBT community. What's so funny is that every single argument Mike Huckabee flips. He flips everything. So, for example, he said, we're fighting judicial tyranny here. No. You are the tyrant. You're the tyrant. Because you're the one saying, I'm going to take my value system and impose it on other people. Now, Mike Huckabee likes to think, well, the gays are imposing their values on us. No, they're not. They're not forcing you to get gay married. They're saying you can get whatever kind of married you like. If you want to get straight married, go ahead. You don't want to get married, go ahead. But if people want to get gay married, you can't stop them. See, under this system, it accommodates everybody. Nobody's left out. We've set it up so that you can get whatever kind of married you want and that nobody's being discriminated against. Under Mike Huckabee's system, he wants to discriminate against gays. But then when he's asked the question, well, wouldn't you be standing with the racist people back when it was interracial marriage? She's like, no, it's totally different. It's not totally different. It's exactly the same. And I like when this is his new thing. He says all the time now, the Supreme Court can't make law. So that's his way of saying, well, this is invalid. Except, Mike, you missed it. They didn't make a law. They're not pretending they made a law. What they're saying is it's a reasonable interpretation of the Constitution to look at the 14th Amendment and equal protection under the law and say, that should apply to gay people. Perfectly reasonable. So the 14th Amendment, as it is right now, as it's written right now, if you read that, a reasonable interpretation of it is you can't block gay people from getting married because it says in the 14th Amendment you need to do equal protection under the law, and that includes gay people, and that includes the right to marry. So this idea that they made a law, they didn't make a law, they didn't even pretend to make a law, you're setting up a straw man so that you can knock it down and try to explain civics to us. Meanwhile, you're the one that doesn't understand civics, because you're doing the same thing Rick Santorum did, where you say, if the Supreme Court makes a decision I dislike, I'm just going to override it, I'm just going to overrule it, and that's going to be the end of the conversation. And notice what he said at the beginning. He's like, well, yeah, Abraham Lincoln didn't listen to the courts when they were pro-slavery. So Kim Davis, Abraham Lincoln, tomato, same fucking person. Oh, you sad soul. Bite your tongue now. Pump your brakes. What are you doing? Seriously? Kim Davis is like Abraham Lincoln. Kim Davis. See, that's the thing. Huckabee, when he says, hey, unjust laws shouldn't be followed, when he says that, he's not wrong. He's right about that. The problem is the laws that he thinks are unjust are in fact just, and they are moral. See, because he has a backwards moral code, and his beliefs are fucked up, and his ethical system is wrong, he views himself and he views Kim Davis as some sort of hero, saving civilization by being discriminatory and bigoted against gays. But the thing is, Mike, history is going to judge you in the proper light and in the proper historical context, where they view you more in line with the people who opposed releasing the slaves. They're going to view you more in line with the people who were against interracial marriage. You want to know why they're going to view you that way? Because they're right to view you that way. That is more who you agree with. See, you think, and Kim Davis thinks she's Rosa Parks, but as somebody pointed out on Twitter, no, you're the awkward old white lady in the front of the bus screaming at Rosa Parks to get to the back of the bus. You think you're the hero, but you're the villain, and everybody else sees it but you.